Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another episode of Variants That I Love. Last time I talked about my favorite Annie, which is of course Starshine. This time though, I'm going to be talking about my favorite Marie, which is in fact Grin Reaper. Now, Grin Reaper is one of those variants that when she was first shown off, I knew that I was going to like her just because of her ability. And once I actually got her, I was totally right, and she is extremely useful and extremely awesome, and has easily become my favorite Marie, which is crazy because it used to be Dark Horse. So what is it that makes her so awesome? Well, let's go ahead and start by talking about her signature ability. So Grin Reaper's signature ability is Knock 'em Dead, which makes it so she regains 50% blockbuster meter and inflicts inverse polarity for 15 seconds when either fighter uses a blockbuster. She also gains mortuary charge and 2 stacks of miasma for 12 seconds when defeating an opponent. So the first thing I love about Grin Reaper is the fact that she's able to inflict inverse polarity. Inverse polarity is honestly probably one of my favorite debuffs in the game. It basically makes it so whenever a person is inflicted with inverse polarity, all healing effects on them are reversed. So instead of healing, they'll take damage. And unlike bleed, this effect can actually kill an opponent. So it's pretty awesome for that reason. Inverse polarity is also really good against characters like Black Dahlia and Beowulf who have regenerative Marquee abilities. Because like I said, it turns their regenerative abilities against them, which is awesome. And the same can be said, of course, against variants who rely on regen. So yeah, that is part of the reason that I love inverse polarity. It's also very easy to apply inverse polarity since you don't actually have to hit the opponent with any kind of move or anything. All you really have to do is use a blockbuster, and you don't even have to be the one using it. If the enemy uses it, it'll also inflict inverse polarity on them. Although, you probably don't want to get hit by an enemy blockbuster. Now, her second ability is also really nice, since it makes it so she can gain a mortuary charge as soon as she defeats an enemy, which actually combines really well with her Marquee ability. In my case, I'm specifically talking about improved incineration, but the way it works is whenever she destroys a dead body, she gains 25% blockbuster meter and a permanent stack of enrage. So after defeating your first opponent, you're even stronger with that permanent stack of enrage. Plus, she also gains 2 stacks of miasma, which is of course really helpful. And in Grin Reaper's case, miasma is also really helpful since it drains the enemy's health and blockbuster meter as long as you're near them, which means you'll be able to get out blockbusters faster and you'll be able to keep inverse polarity on the enemy. Now, Marie also has the ability to revive her teammates, so if you're using Grin Reaper, it should be pretty easy to bring back any dead allies, assuming you're able to defeat the opponent, of course. Now, as much as I love Grin Reaper, inverse polarity is kind of a niche debuff since it really only works against opponents who have some way to heal themselves. But with that being said, there is one place specifically that I love to use Grin Reaper in, and I think she is extremely good, and I'm sure you guys know exactly where I'm going with this. Of course, the place that I'm talking about that Grin Reaper is super awesome in is Parallel Realms No Mercy difficulty. So No Mercy Parallel Realms has some very annoying match modifiers. In Area 1, you have Halftime, which makes it so the enemy gains 5 stacks of regen once their health drops below 50%. If you can't remove the regen or out damage it, then this can be kind of annoying, but since Grin Reaper has the ability to inflict inverse polarity, it actually makes the fights go even faster than they would normally because you can easily just turn those 5 stacks of regen against the enemy. The final node of Area 1 has some pretty annoying modifiers as well. First, we have Renaissance, which makes it so once per match, the enemy revives with the full blockbuster meter. This one isn't all that bad, but it can be a little bit annoying. However, one interesting interaction in this game is that if you inflict inverse polarity on the enemy and they die, Renaissance doesn't activate. It's really weird. So because of that, it's actually really easy to just ignore that modifier when using Grin Reaper, since you're probably going to be using blockbusters to inflict inverse polarity. So yeah. Next, we have Possession Change, which is actually really hard for me to explain in words without sounding completely insane, so I'm just going to read the description. If defeated near the body of a defeated teammate, the fallen teammate will resurrect with 50% health. So basically, after you defeat your first opponent, if you're not careful, you may accidentally bring them back to life when you defeat the second opponent, and that's definitely happened to me before. If you're like me and you use a character that knocks all the enemies all the way to the wall, and all of their dead bodies end up there, you'll end up in this annoying loop of constantly bringing back people, and if you're not careful, you can run out of time, and it could just be a huge annoyance. But as we just discussed earlier, Grin Reaper has the ability to gain a mortuary charge as soon as she defeats an enemy, so it is incredibly easy to avoid this modifier since you could just immediately destroy the dead body and never have to worry about possession change. So Grin Reaper is definitely really good for this first area. Now, where she also shines is in Area 3, the final node, because in that node, we have Exquisite Corpse, which is one of my least favorite favorite modifiers in the game, and it's also kind of a long one, so once again I'm just gonna read it. Suffering a hit while near a dead teammate grants thorns for 15 seconds. Resurrect all teammates with 50% health when using a tier 3 blockbuster. So the reason I dislike this modifier is, one, because I always end up giving the enemies a bunch of stacks of thorns, which is really problematic in No Mercy because the enemy already has an insane amount of health from another match modifier, so any stack of thorns that they get is going to be a huge problem for you. Plus the thorns last even longer in this node because the enemy has the time dilation modifier, which basically makes it so their buffs last longer. But another reason I hate this modifier is because if the enemy uses a level 3 blockbuster or a tier 3 blockbuster, they revive their entire party! So not only is the character that you're playing as completely toast because they're about to get hit by a level 3 blockbuster, but the enemy party comes back to life on top of that? No. Luckily, like I said earlier, Grin Reaper gains a mortuary charge as soon as she defeats an enemy, so once she blows up a dead body, she doesn't have to worry about these modifiers at all. Also, a side note, but this is kind of an important one, if you guys ever do Parallel Realms, and you have to deal with Exquisite Corpse, if you go into that node and manage to take out 1 or 2 people, but you lose, the next time you go at that node, those 2 characters should be dead. But if that last character ends up using a level 3 blockbuster, even though those other 2 characters were dead at the start of the fight and their bodies are nowhere to be seen, they can come back to life still, so just keep that in mind if you ever have to deal with this horrible node. But yeah, I think those are pretty much all the reasons that I like Grin Reaper so much and why she's easily my favorite Marquee. I highly recommend you guys get her if you don't already have her. She is a really good pick, she's super useful in No Mercy like I said, and honestly she's just a really fun character to play. But enough from me, what do you guys think about her? Let me know what you guys think about her in the comments. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye!